Good afternoon. My name is Patricia Leva, President and CEO of Junior Achievement of Central Upstate New York, and I'm proud to be your host for the virtual 2020 Rochester Business Hall of Fame, right here from the Rochester Business Hall of Fame exhibit at the Rochester Museum and Science Center. While we certainly wish we could all be together, I'm thankful that you have joined us online. So on behalf of the Rochester Business Journal and the Rochester Museum and Science Center, welcome to our celebration of entrepreneurship. The Rochester Business Hall of Fame is a prestigious tradition. Over the past 20 years, we have inducted 134 individuals who have made extraordinary and selfless contributions to our local economy and to the community. They have been a source of inspiration and encouragement for all ages. And that's why we are here today. We gave considerable thought to whether or not we should have an award ceremony of this distinction at a time when many of our local businesses are struggling, some have closed, and many individuals are faced with economic hardship. But by looking through the lens of challenge and adversity, what came into clear view was a sense of hope, resilience, and inspiration. The honorees chosen for the 2020 class of the Rochester Business Hall of Fame not only embody these qualities, but they also provide an insight into the importance of social entrepreneurship to our economy and our community, especially when difficult times like these arise. As part of our celebration today, you will have a unique opportunity to see some of the exclusive interviews we conducted with current members of the Rochester Business Hall of Fame, including their thoughts on entrepreneurship through COVID-19 and their advice for the future. The hope and inspiration we've come here to celebrate today is what JA has been fostering in our students throughout this nation for the past 100 years. We provide knowledge, skills, and the confidence for the next generation to create their very own version of the American dream. Imagine for a moment if the Spanish flu of 1918, the Great Depression, and the social unrest of the 60s occurred all in one year. That is similar to what Generation Z, our high school students, have experienced in 2020. A sudden and harsh decline of economic opportunity and increased economic inequities for those living in poverty. By investing in youth now, mentoring them in how to create and manage assets, how to develop valuable skills for the workplace, and how to foster an entrepreneurial spirit, they can contribute to rebuilding our economy and America's global competitiveness.
This was at Cyclops Steel. They were our sponsor for our Junior Achievement Company. He took me in and I would just go to everybody and they were like $3 for the cookie tins. And you put a big smile on and you cook cookies, don't you? You need to, and for $3, I mean, how can you say no? And we did really well. To this day, I have some friends that their parents still have them. I mean, I sold them to everybody. I remember making commissions on them and the company making money, and I learned a lot. Back then, there was nothing cool about it. I mean, literally, I had to get on a bus, go downtown. My high school buddies weren't in it with me. It was just something I wanted to do. It wasn't like any of my friends were like, oh, wow, that's really, really cool. We're jealous. It was like, what the heck are you doing? But I don't know where else I could have gotten the same knowledge. One of the reasons I do Shark Tank is because so many families watch the show together and explains to them what it's like to start and run a business and what it's like to be an entrepreneur. I really didn't have anything like that. My dad did upholstery on cars. I knew through him, I knew some entrepreneurs, and I think he had aspirations at some point to be an entrepreneur. Junior Achievement really was the only outlet, the only place I could go where I could truly learn about business. So going to Junior Achievement, I learned everything. I learned how to incorporate. I learned about all the different roles, the president, the vice president, the treasurer, the secretary, sales and cost of goods sold and production and making products and selling them at a profit and just all these pieces. We literally ran a business. Just that whole concept of the American dream, I think, drives so many kids. Junior Achievement is a good opportunity to understand what it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur in this country.
Providing students the opportunity to develop an entrepreneurial mindset and having a mentor to guide them along the way is more important now than ever. Let's hear from one of our community's most impactful entrepreneurial mentors, Dennis Kessler.
Joining us now is Dennis Kessler. He's a local entrepreneur. He also teaches over at the Simon School at the University of Rochester. Dennis, I want to thank you so much for joining us. First question is this: how much has COVID-19 impacted entrepreneurship as a whole? And have you been able to find an opportunity to use this to help teach your students?
It's a wonderful question because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's the black swan moment. That's something that happens unexpectedly, unforeseeable. I have a large lecture of 71 students this past March for the spring semester. My opening remarks to the students were, this is a time when you need to be thinking about what you could do entrepreneurially to solve a problem, to help, to assist, and even create a business out of this moment. And my students were up to the challenge. Crisis breeds innovation. That's exactly what it does. There are times when entrepreneurship thrives. This is one of those times. Entrepreneurs are coming out of the woodwork. Keep in mind, unemployment is also driving this. This is an issue of necessity. This is an issue where people in millions have lost their jobs due to this pandemic. Necessity, being the mother of invention, has really been thriving for entrepreneurs. Whether or not it's making you're handy with needlecraft, and so you're now making masks, or on a much larger scale in your own business, you're doing what you did previously as a manufacturer. You're now making ventilators, figuring out how to make smaller ventilators, faster ventilators, and getting them to market. But entrepreneurs are rising to the occasion.
How do you teach your students to go out and find a need?
The best ideas I find come from your place of employment. If you are, take for example, the virus. I have quite a few students who work at URMC, at the medical center. Two nurses in emergency had created a quick sanitizing solution for stethoscopes between patients. Another came up with, and this was an international student who came up with the idea of using excess shipping containers to create makeshift hospitals. These are the kinds of things that people, or certainly my students, are thinking about, and entrepreneurship is, there it is. It just makes me I'm so gratified by the ingenuity and the things they come up with.
This year, the Rochester Business Hall of Fame is honoring two social entrepreneurs. Can you talk to us for a moment about that concept?
So social entrepreneurship solves an important need that neither government nor the marketplace has been able to solve. And what it does, it serves underrepresented and vulnerable populations. And it's about doing well by doing good. We have a food desert in places here in Rochester, New York, the most bountiful country on earth from an agricultural standpoint. And why does that exist? Tom stepped in, assembles a team of very, very capable people. And the next thing you know, he's got a major business enterprise going. And it's not for Tom, it's for the community. It's for the greater community. It's for Rochester and beyond. And that model is being replicated over and over and over in the United States.
In which industries do you see more disruption coming?
I think the next big disruption is going to be in higher education. Google is promising to issue certificates of training after 6 months to a year, taking courses through Google. I think today's students want something faster, sooner, and that is also relevant, and that's the key word, relevant to what it is they're going to be learned. You need to be talking about AI, artificial intelligence. You need to be talking about blockchain. You need to be talking about cryptocurrency. And if you're not talking about those things in your courses, then I'm skeptical. I mean, you think about companies like, you want a hotel, in my day, in my younger day, I'd think about Marriott and Hilton. And today I think Airbnb, and Airbnb's market cap is greater than it is for Marriott, that's been in business over 100 years, and they don't own a single brick. Disruption, disruption, disruption. That's the key word. That's what today's entrepreneurs have to be looking at and say, what is the next disruptive technology that I can find, that I can produce, that I could get to market with the help of investors and bring it to market. And that's the name of the game today. It's using technology for disruption. I would say a week doesn't go by that a student doesn't call. It's, I have an idea, and I got a phone call just a couple of days ago from a student, and it's also related to his work. And there it is again, something I saw at work that I think I could find a better, shorter, faster, less expensive way to get this product onto the marketplace that will help people. And that's really what the name of the game is. I see innovation everywhere. I just love working in this world.
The unsettled and uncertain environment created by the pandemic has created a new norm for all of us, including the education community. JA has spent the last 6 months reimagining our learning experiences with both innovative and flexible delivery models that fit in-person, hybrid, and remote learning environments. Our K-12 suite of programs are now available through a state-of-the-art learning management system, and each of our high school programs culminates in a simulation or a virtual event that gives students the opportunity to apply what they've learned to real-life experiences. Each program has been adapted so that a community mentor can continue to bring their experience to students, live via Zoom or a similar technology, or through a recorded video. Let's hear from a few JA students who went virtual with JA programs this past spring.
Hi, I'm Nick Beardsley, a recent graduate from the New Visions Business Academy, now a freshman at the University of Albany studying business administration, and I'm a JA alum. JA taught me how to start a successful business from the ground up. As CEO of my JA company, 2020, I learned many essential business management techniques that I use in everyday life. A real aha moment for me was learning that management isn't all about telling others what to do, but motivating them to do so. My JA mentor helped me to improve my business and communication skills, as well as grow as a person. Highlights of my JA experience was that our company, 2020, was chosen as one of 15 student companies, chosen out of 500 companies, to compete at the JA National Student Leadership Summit this past June. This was an amazing experience for me and my teammates. I am so thankful JA was able to offer us this experience virtually, as it gave us the opportunity to interact with students from all over the country and attend workshops on innovation and leadership led by Fortune 500 companies. Learning via Zoom isn't so bad, I guess, and it helped prepare me for my freshman year of college. While we ultimately didn't come out the big winner, we still had a big idea and a great time pitching it. Thanks, Jay. Check it out.
Did you know that in March of 2020, New York State is banning single-use plastic bags? Our Junior Achievement Company 2020 has decided to sell reusable produce bags to help New York State shoppers comply with the new law. And this is what our bag looks like. Another cool trick is you can stick the produce label right onto the bag and it won't come off. And you're saving the environment too.
The produce pouch even allows you to weigh your fruits and vegetables without getting them dirty. Just weigh them while they are still in the bag and use the attached tear weight tag to get the actual weight of the produce.
You can simply wash your produce in the bag and then take it out to dry. Easy.
Produce pouch comes in 3 different sizes. 1 small, 3 medium, and 1 large bag, fitting the sizes and needs for all of your fruits and vegetables.
Order yours today for only $20. You can visit us at our website, our social media, and our email, all listed right here.
Hi, I'm Cedric Thomas. I had the chance to take a few of the JA programs this past year as a senior at Geisha High School. Between the online simulations and competitions such as the JA Stock Market Challenge, the JA Titan Business Challenge, and JA Entrepreneurial Summit, JA provided a great foundation of skills and allowed me the opportunity to practice them in real time. For example, the JA Titan simulation gave me the experience of dealing with the unpredictable market conditions and how to adjust to them, which is even more relevant today given our current circumstances. In the Entrepreneurial Summit, left a lasting impression because it taught me to problem solve by looking at things from a different perspective. One of my favorite programs, though, was the JA Stock Market Challenge. It not only gave me the knowledge of the indicators of a good company investment, but it also inspired me to use my background in coding to write a script to assist me in choosing the best stocks based on financial indicators. This strategy allowed me to be a solid competitor in the challenge and finish in the top 3. I'm so grateful we had the opportunity to still compete virtually this spring. It definitely gave us all something to look forward to, given COVID-19 impacted so many other things in our senior year. Lastly, I would like to say that all these experiences allowed me to build lifelong skills and have fun while competing with my peers. And as a freshman at RIT in Management Information Systems, I know I can draw on what I learned from JA to help pave the way for my future. Thanks, JA.
Thank you both for sharing your JA experiences. As you just heard from Cedric, he applied an entrepreneurial mindset to analyzing the financial markets. To hear from an expert on entrepreneurship in the financial sector, we reached out to Lori Van Duzen, Rochester Business Hall of Fame, class of 2019.
Joining us now is Lori Van Duzen, the founder of LVW Advisors. Lori, thank you so much for joining us. Lori, the first question I have for you, do you think there's going to be any permanent changes to the financial markets because of COVID-19?
In terms of the financial markets and permanent changes, I've learned, having lived through a lot of recessions and crises, never to think of anything as completely permanent. Right now, we're seeing a meaningful divergence between the kind of new technology companies that have attracted a deluge of investment. And there's a big difference between the valuations and the excitement around those companies that have kind of been pulled forward because of the pandemic. While many of these companies are good growth companies, at some point, price and time correct their valuation. And I think that will probably happen as we have a recovery, as we look forward to a vaccine getting closer. The market will broaden out and there'll be winners and losers. And a lot of the winners will be things that people aren't even paying attention to now. But in terms of permanency more broadly, I think what we are going to have is virus screening likely to become a part of our lives, kind of like security measures became ubiquitous after 9/11. So I think we have to think as a society and as business owners, what are we going to do the next time this happens, and how can we navigate it better?
Did the markets provide any room for innovation in your industry?
There's been a tremendous amount of innovation in not only our industry, but in the world. We had the most tremendous slowdown. I don't even know if you can say slowdown. It was an economic stop. The pandemic had the opposite effect on innovation. So it isn't just finance, fintech, all of the technology around working from home. All of us have learned that we can pivot rapidly, that we have to take significant risks, that we can innovate in kind of unexpected ways. So within 2 months of the pandemic, we had robots disinfecting cities. We had telemedicine going to volumes we had never seen before because regulatory barriers had dropped and there was no other way to interact with patients. But it's also supercharged areas that we're really interested in as investors, like software, enterprise software. You have Salesforce, which is a name very few people knew 5 years ago, replacing Exxon in the Dow Jones. So there's been so much innovation that my hope is that that continues, and that our stimulus, both fiscal and otherwise, supports more of that because it has implications for productivity, but it also has implications for future jobs and the unemployment rate.
What has this whole experience taught you about entrepreneurship?
I have learned a lot over the years about entrepreneurship and being a successful entrepreneur through failure mostly. That's been my biggest teacher. I constantly think about what are the vulnerabilities in the business, how do I sustain it? And in the end, it's all about people. It's all about creating and cultivating a next generation team and a business that can exist without you. And the mentorship is a huge part of that. And as an entrepreneur, we always think about how to improve things and how to move forward, but we don't think a lot about being taken out of the picture. And I was completely taken out of my company for the last several months when my husband died suddenly, and I was not able, emotionally or otherwise, to work in my company day by day. And what I saw was the work and the fruits of mentorship that had been put in place because our team did everything without me. And so I always wanted to be useless overhead. I always joke about that. And they proved to me that they could not only do the day-to-day, but they could grow the business and take care of clients in a world-class way. And so I owe a debt of gratitude to them for that. But it's reinforced the lesson around entrepreneurship, that a true entrepreneur is someone who thinks beyond themselves.
So there are a lot of entrepreneurs coming up in this environment. What advice would you have for them?
So my advice for upcoming entrepreneurs is that there is a big difference between truly being an entrepreneur and the allure of not wanting to work for anyone or working for yourself. And I think you have to first start with, what is your skill set? What is your passion? What are you good at objectively? What are you trying to solve for? Because every successful entrepreneur solved for some gap, something that wasn't present in their marketplace. So I went into an established industry many years ago, and there was a big gap around advice, objective advice. And so knowing what you're solving for and then getting the skills and getting the advice around that to build a business is really important. Leveraging your network, reaching out to people that you know, friends, family, or people that maybe you don't know but you aspire to be like in business or otherwise, and asking them for advice. I did that. People do that with me all the time, and every entrepreneur is flattered, really, and thankful that you've asked them for help. There's a fine line between not selling yourself short and then being realistic about where your shortcomings are and setting the right kinds of expectations and timelines and putting the right people around you. And I think that's a really key piece of advice for all aspiring entrepreneurs.
In a few moments, we will be inducting the first member of the class of 2020 into the Rochester Business Hall of Fame. But first, I want to take a moment to thank each of our sponsors. It is because of your generosity that JA is able to bring impactful learning experiences to almost 15,000 students like Nick and Cedric throughout our region. Special thanks to Bank of America, who has been a long-time sponsor of this prestigious event. I would like to now introduce Colleen Madison, Market President for Bank of America, who would like to say a few words.
Good afternoon. I'm Colleen Madison, Rochester Market President for Bank of America. Bank of America has proudly been a longtime sponsor of the Rochester Business Hall of Fame and a supporter of junior achievement. Through the Rochester Business Hall of Fame, we honor those individuals whose innovation, leadership, and inspiration have fueled economic growth and prosperity for all. At Bank of America, an important focus of ours is advancing pathways to economic mobility to help build equitable and thriving communities. JA programs play an important role in our region's efforts in doing just that. JA's programs empower students with the tools to become financially capable, help them build skills for 21st century jobs, and inspire them to become Rochester's next generation of entrepreneurs. This afternoon, we are underscoring the importance of social entrepreneurship with this year's inductees. Thank you so much for attending.
Thanks, Colleen. Also, special thanks to our friends at Flynn, who spent countless hours producing this virtual event for us this afternoon. Thank you, John Marionetti, Drew Damtoft, and Craig Henderberg for bringing hope and inspiration to life through both creativity and technology. I would now like to welcome Ben Jacobs, editor of the Rochester Business Journal, to review the process and criteria for induction into the Rochester Business Hall of Fame and get us started with our awards.
Thank you, Patty. The RBJ is proud to be part of this important tradition. The process for selecting honorees is a rigorous one. Each year, an independent advisory committee made up of business leaders, current laureates, and philanthropic leaders makes recommendations to a selection committee. The committee considers the following qualifications. First, inductees must have made significant and enduring contributions and positive impact on their organization or industry. Second, the inductee must have an excellent reputation and be a source of inspiration and encouragement for others to follow, especially our next generation. And third, inductees must have made significant contributions to their community. I think you will agree that the individuals we honor this year had significant and enduring impact on the Rochester economy. They had a clear vision for the future, creating innovative solutions as well as hundreds of jobs in our community and beyond. True entrepreneurs worthy of induction into the Rochester Business Hall of Fame. Today's first honoree, born in 1821 to abolitionist parents, was adept at noticing human needs. She devoted her life to seeking solutions to social issues and bringing resources and comfort to individuals and families. Educated as a teacher, Clara Barton's initial entrepreneurial endeavor was the founding of the first public school in New Jersey. After being refused the job of principal at the school she founded because she was a woman, she took a job in the U.S. Patent Office in Washington, D.C., where she once again saw great need. Barton was soon supporting makeshift field hospitals on the front lines of the Civil War and organizing aid to Union soldiers as well as Confederate prisoners. At the end of the war, her entrepreneurial spirit was again put into action. She founded the Missing Soldier Office in 1865 with the approval of President Lincoln, an effort that eventually provided closure for more than 22,000 missing soldiers' families. And that is just the beginning of the story. Barton traveled to Europe for rest, where she learned about a movement named the International Red Cross, which called for neutral help and protection of the sick and wounded during wartime. Barton returned to the U.S. and settled in Dansville, New York, and began a privately funded campaign for her vision of a similar U.S. aid organization, one that would expand humanitarian relief beyond the battlefield to include disaster relief. In 1881, at the age of 59, she formed the first chapter of the American Red Cross in Dansville, followed by offices in Rochester and Syracuse. She would serve as its national president for the next 23 years. Barton's vision, innovation, and tenacity would help build the Red Cross into the world's largest humanitarian organization.
Clara went to see her friend in Bordentown, New Jersey. And while she was there, noticed a bunch of boys hanging out on the street corner. And so she talked to the boys about, well, how come you guys are hanging out? Aren't you be in school? Oh, we don't go to school. What do you mean don't go to school? Well, we have no school to go to. There's a private school in town, but we can't afford that. So there was a school board. She approached the school board, and she and her friend, both teachers, said, hey, we want to teach these boys. Okay, fine. So they had space, and she grew the school from 6 to 200 in about 2 years. And it turned out to be the first public school system in Bordentown, New Jersey. And she was a teacher there for a couple of years. Opportunity came to be the principal, but because she was female, she was not considered, and she finished her teaching, and so she moved to Washington, D.C., got a job in the patent office as a clerk. The first big battle in the Civil War was Manassas or Bull Run, and it turned out to be a Union rout. So as the Union troops came flooding back into Washington, many of them injured, that's when it concerned her about who's taking care of these men. And she was able to collect supplies and make them available, and oddly enough, stored them in her apartment. And so she got those supplies, and she actually organized wagons and take them out there on the battlefield. Her dad had taught her that the best place for medical supplies are right behind where the guys are fighting. So the Antietam battlefield, where she got the nickname Angel of the Battlefield, she was able at night to move those wagons of supplies up closer to the battlefield. Toward the end of the war, the Confederacy released many Union prisoners, and they were coming through Annapolis, Maryland. Clara Barton wrote a letter to Lincoln asking, could I get permission to have this Office of Correspondence set up in Annapolis, and I will try to match prisoners with family. Then she found out that there were a lot of missing men. So the prisoner exchange correspondence became an office of missing soldiers. And she was receiving thousands of letters by the time the war ended and making connections to match up the missing or the prisoners with family. For health reasons, after the Civil War, she heard about these health spa, sanitarium type in Switzerland, and she went there. And she heard about a movement called the International Red Cross, founded by Henri Dunant, who was a Swiss businessman. And she was encouraged by Henri Dunant's associates to come back here to America and get the president, at that time President Garfield, to sign what we would now call the Geneva Convention. When the Red Cross was first organized, and we have a charter then and charter now, that we as an obligation need to respond to disasters, which could be war or peacetime, and service to the military, veterans and their families. Because we're part of that international body, we also respond to those disasters overseas. When the Red Cross was first organized, at that time the major disaster was the Civil War. She was able to encourage and get them thinking. It was even called the Clara Barton Amendment, that American Red Cross would then respond to natural disasters. So after the organization happened in 1881, the first natural disaster they responded to were a bunch of forest fires in Michigan. The biggest thing that, and I kind of chuckle about this, when she started this 1881, she was 60 years old. So she's a CEO of a company at 60 years old. And she felt like she had to be out there where the action was. And she would say, "I'm here with the wounded." From the 1881, she became the American Red Cross president in 1900. Yeah, I would say Clara Barton was an entrepreneur. She had a vision for what she wanted to do. What she needed from people was some action. She had a story, and what's the ask? Well, the ask could be, I need volunteer support, I need money to help us keep things going. She wasn't getting any federal grants of any kind. I need manpower, I need supplies and resources, and the way to move it around. She saw people hurting on the battlefield, and her vision was an organization that could respond, American Red Cross. She was a teacher. She saw kids on the street corner in Bordentown, New Jersey that had no place to go, but they should have been in the classroom, and she carried out that vision and organized the first public school system in Bordentown, New Jersey. Meeting with Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton and the women's suffrage movement, she felt like, I can support that, but I got to focus on that Red Cross vision. And she was a boots on the ground kind of lady.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Rochester Business Hall of Fame welcomes the humanitarian, visionary, and social entrepreneur, the late Clara Barton, to its ranks.
Joining us now, Ron Ricotta, the president and CEO of Century Mold. Thank you for joining us. How was your business and industry impacted by COVID-19, and do you think there are any permanent changes because of the pandemic?
We are a manufacturer of automotive parts. We make parts that go on brand new vehicles, so approximately 3/4 of the vehicles made in North America have our parts, and we deal in things that are under the hood or under the dash. Things like your air conditioning, fans that go on your motors, things to protect your wiring in your vehicles. So when the pandemic hit, our customers, the Fords and the Chryslers and the Toyotas, all the OEMs shut down. So we had no sales for 3 months. So there was a major impact on our business. We had, fortunately for us, we had spent years building up our balance sheet. We're able to survive quite well despite losing a lot of money during that time. The unexpected challenge was, how do you keep 900 people employed when you have no sales? The good thing about that was our people all pulled together. We had great camaraderie, and we did some nice things for the Rochester community in particular. We converted our automotive manufacturing plant over to making face shields when they were in dire need, especially for Rochester Regional Health. And we did some other health systems, and that was quite rewarding.
Are you seeing any particular businesses or industries arising out of this pandemic? And what influence, what impact do you think being in the Rochester market can have on a business or industry?
I think there are two key areas that can come out of this pandemic that will be very good. One is manufacturing. I think we've learned through this pandemic that having manufacturing and having medical supplies offshore is not necessarily good for our country. So I think these are two great industries for the U.S. and our local economy to take advantage of.
What advice would you give to a young entrepreneur in this uncertain economy?
If you learn how to be a business person and an entrepreneur, it can only benefit you and this country going forward. Taking the time to learn how things are made, things are sold, how to collaborate, be a good team member are critical to not only you, to the company you're with, or to your own company's success, but something can benefit our whole nation. So I don't think there is too many things more important than learning how to be a good person, a good teammate, and taking care of yourself. Preparation is important, and Junior Achievement gives you that preparation. I consider it a privilege to be part of this year's award ceremony, which honors the founders of FoodLink and the American Red Cross. We consider our business part of an ecosystem here in Rochester that takes care of the people of this community. And without them, our business couldn't be successful, and we think it's our obligation to help out organizations such as FoodLink and the American Red Cross. So very proud to be part of this presentation.
Good afternoon. I'm Hillary Olson, President and CEO of the Rochester Museum and Science Center. We too are proud to be a part of this tradition and happy to be the home of the Rochester Business Hall of Fame exhibit. Our next honoree's commitment to the issue of hunger began in the early 1970s while he was volunteering at a food cupboard in the 19th Ward. At that time, only 3 food cupboards existed in Rochester, and all 3 were reporting a steady increase in individuals seeking their services. With a bold vision to end hunger, Tom Ferraro founded FoodLink in 1978. Under Ferraro's leadership, FoodLink grew into a 500-member organization, distributing more than 18 million pounds of food and resources each year to area soup kitchens, food pantries, shelters, group homes, senior centers, daycares, after-school programs, and other nonprofit organizations, impacting more than 200,000 families per year. With 100 local employees, FoodLink runs over 30 innovative food-related programs aimed at improving nutrition, empowering individuals with food literacy, and strengthening the regional food system. As the executive director of FoodLink for over 34 years, Tom was recognized nationally for his entrepreneurial spirit. He served on the National Board of Directors of Feeding America, known then as Second Harvest, working tirelessly with his peers to develop the concept of food banking nationally. He assisted in the formation of 7 New York State food banks, as well as the creation of the New York State Department of Health's Hunger Prevention and Nutrition Assistance Program, which continues to provide millions of dollars to hunger relief, food safety, and nutrition education programs each year.
Tom founded FoodLink in the late 70s when he was an employee of Action for a Better Community, the Community Action Program, and he recognized that a lot of food was going to waste from manufacturers, from retailers. There was no mechanism to get it to people in need, and so this became an issue he wanted to solve. And the story goes that he went on the Eddie Meath show, and he made an all-call to the community to donate excess food, both individuals and manufacturers. And he got a call that same day from Thomas's English Muffins saying, yeah, pull up, we'll load you up, we've got English muffins for you. And so he thought that they just meant his car, and he got his wood-paneled station wagon and he drove over there, and in fact they had truckloads of English muffins for him to share with agencies serving individuals. And so he ended up going back to ABC, commandeering a Head Start bus, a full yellow bus, bringing it back to Thomas's English Muffins and filling it, and that is what we call the start of FoodLink.
Tom came with the idea of picking up food from our stores and taking it to the food bank. We were already working with a church pantry and giving them bread, but his vision was much bigger than that, and so we worked together. And Tom came with the idea of a broader kind of relationship, and we said yes. And so we were joined at the hip for these many years. As we at Wegmans visited other food banks, and we always did that when we moved into a new market, it was evident the people in other food banks held FoodLink in very, very high esteem. And we always tried to pass along the admiration and to be grateful that others saw it as we did, that it really was an outstanding operation.
Tom was really outspoken about hunger being a symptom of a much larger problem, that being poverty. And so he believed that food banks had a responsibility to create jobs and to invest in the economy. And that concept was really radical among food banks who primarily were focused on the charitable distribution of food. Tom knew that just simply distributing food would never end hunger. And so his entrepreneurial spirit led him to explore a whole host of things that other nonprofits might think were beyond the mission. He started a hydroponic farm. He created something called the Fulfillment Center, which was supported and endorsed by then Senator Hillary Clinton, which essentially helped local farmers to store and distribute their product. He had a number of failures, like many entrepreneurs do, in his attempts to, again, address the root causes of hunger, but he had a lot of successes too.
One thing that I have always admired about Tom was attention to continuous improvement. He was constantly looking for ways to do things better. Sometimes better meant more efficient, other times maybe it meant that it would require an investment up front in order to do what was needed, but he was always looking for how to improve. And so he was quick to identify the things that work and the things that don't, and then to move on to something better.
One story that really embodies Tom's entrepreneurial spirit is how we came to have a sliced apple operation. Back in 2013, some partners of ours in Wayne County approached Tom because they had an apple conundrum on their hands. Here they were sitting in the second largest apple producing county in the nation, and yet the kids in Wayne County schools were eating apples from Washington State, which is just a sign of our broken food system. And so they wanted to figure out a way how to get local apples grown in the orchards outside their windows, into the classrooms there. Tom, knowing that we had a kitchen, without asking what it would take to manufacture these sliced apples and bag them, just said yes to the opportunity. And in fact, today we have a full sliced apple line that produces hundreds of thousands of cases of sliced apples for school children across the state of New York every single year. And it has a triple bottom line for our organization. It invests in the local economy, it creates new healthy access to foods for kids throughout New York State, and it helps to earn revenue to keep our operation sustainable. His true legacy, his true impact lies on his direct connections to individuals. He took chances on people. He believed that the most important thing was to put people first and to invest in them. He loved the energy of young professionals and he loved mentoring them. He met people in random ways and offered them a job at FoodLink, knowing that no one else would offer them a job based on their background. And I think the most obvious way Tom impacted this community is with the legacy that FoodLink has now, which we serve 200,000 families every single year. We help to make sure that they can make ends meet and keep the lights on and keep food in their cupboards. And that is because of Tom Ferraro. Over the past 40 years, millions of families have been impacted because of his founding of this organization.
On behalf of the millions of people impacted by this gentleman's innovation, leadership, and crusade against hunger, I'm pleased to welcome the late Tom Ferraro to the Rochester Business Hall of Fame.
Two incredible stories this afternoon of social entrepreneurs who together have impacted the lives of millions of individuals and families throughout Rochester, our nation, and our world. Recognizing these extraordinary individuals during such difficult times underscores the importance of social entrepreneurship to the strength and sustainability of our community and our economy. Imagine if we had to face this crisis without the infrastructure that allows us to feed our students and our families in need, or without the emergency relief efforts to address natural disasters, quarantine restrictions, or other emergency needs when they arise. I hope that today's ceremony inspires you to notice unfilled needs, to get involved, and to have hope for our future. On behalf of my partners, I want to voice our grateful admiration for all of the social entrepreneurs and heroes, both here locally and across our nation. First responders, healthcare workers, business and government leaders, and all essential workers who have kept us safe during this pandemic. We send our condolences to all of those who have been impacted during this time, through an illness of their own or a loss of a family member or friend. And let's also remember all of those who have been impacted financially or otherwise by this crisis. We want to thank our Rochester Business Hall of Fame committee members and once again our sponsors for their continued support of this prestigious tradition, and most important, for their belief in the boundless potential of young people through junior achievement. Because no matter their background, they can follow in the footsteps of the men and women of the Rochester Business Hall of Fame. It is my hope that we will see all of you in person once again next October for the 2021 Rochester Business Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Thank you.